Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a brilliant piece of satire that's all about the art of flattery. It's a story where a simple poetry reading is actually a high-stakes negotiation, and it really makes you wonder, what's the real price of praise?
So, picture this. You've got a big hall. It's packed with the town's most important merchants. And up on stage, the president of the Cloth Merchants Association is just piling on the praise for a local tax officer, comparing him to these legendary world-class poets. I mean, it sounds pretty respectable, right? Just a wholesome community celebration of art.
But what if I told you that wasn't the real story at all? That what you're seeing on the surface, a community honoring one of its own, is just a cover? Because the reality is a whole lot messier. It's actually a carefully planned scheme by a bunch of tax-evading merchants to get a corrupt officer off their backs. In this game, the currency isn't cash, it's praise.
Okay, so first, let's just look at the official version of events. The squeaky clean story that actually made it into the local paper. It is a masterclass in spinning a narrative.
According to the newspaper, it was a night of honor for the local income tax officer, a Mr. Dwidi Kumar, who also has this poetic pen name, Sarasij. He's being celebrated for his amazing service to literature by the very same merchants he's supposed to be auditing. The evening was packed with grand speeches, all these poems were read in his honor, and get this, the officer himself gave a 2-hour recital. Everything looks totally legit.
So you gotta ask, right? Why on earth would a group of cloth merchants suddenly get this deep, overwhelming urge to celebrate the poetic talents of their local taxman? Well, let's start peeling back the layers.
And here's where we get to the juicy part, the part the newspaper conveniently left out. Because the real motivation here wasn't art. It was pure, unadulterated panic.
You see, it's all about the timing. Right before this big, fancy ceremony, a brand new government order lands on the officer's desk. And the message is crystal clear. You need to conduct strict audits, raise taxes, and crack down hard on anyone hiding their income. All of a sudden, that spontaneous night of poetry doesn't seem so spontaneous anymore, does it? This government order kicks off a frantic chain reaction. First, you have the panic. The merchants are freaking out because they know their accounting books aren't exactly accurate. They need a solution, and they need it fast. And that's when they get a critical piece of inside intel from the officer's own private secretary.
And this little tip leads them to a solution that is, honestly, nothing short of genius in how cynical it is. They come up with a poetic ploy. A strategy built entirely around exploiting one man's massive ego.
So the officer's secretary, who happens to be a poet himself, basically tells them everything they need to know. He says the officer's real weakness isn't money or power, not in the usual way. It's poetry. The guy is desperate to be seen as a great artist, not just some bureaucrat. So the plan becomes brilliantly simple. Give him the artistic honor he craves. And in return, he'll give them the leniency they so desperately need.
And this whole scheme is just a perfect textbook example of sycophancy. This isn't about being nice or showing appreciation. This is flattery as a tool. It's flattery as a weapon. For these merchants, praise is a currency, and they're using it to buy a very specific outcome.
Okay, now we get to the best part. Let's actually look at the speeches from the ceremony. Because when you listen closely, you realize they are not even trying to hide what's happening. The entire negotiation is going down right there on stage, hidden behind the thinnest possible veil of poetry. The president of the Merchants Association gets up and says this absolute gem. He says that for years, this burning desire to honor the officer was hidden deep inside them, just like the correct accounts in their ledgers. He is literally, out loud, telling the officer, hey, we've been hiding our real books from you for years. It's incredible. I mean, there's no subtext there. It's practically just text. He's openly admitting, look, we know we're guilty, you know we're guilty, and we've just been waiting for the right moment to make a deal. The sheer audacity is just breathtaking.
So how does the officer respond? Does he act shocked? Outraged? Not a chance. He gets up and says he feels as happy as a tax officer does when a merchant secretly brings him his account books in the middle of the night. This is a direct, unmistakable reference to under-the-table deals and bribery.
And with that one sentence, he signals his total acceptance. He's speaking their language. He's confirming, yep, I get what this is really about, and I am 100% on board. The public praise just became the down payment on their get-out-of-jail-free card.
And then, just to remove any lingering doubt, he makes it completely explicit. He tells the merchants, flat out,
do not worry about the government's new order. He assures them that he will take care of them. The deal is done. It's sealed, right there in front of everybody, disguised as a thank you speech.
So there you have it. The art, the culture, the flowery speeches, all of it was just gift wrap for a corrupt bargain. What looked like a cultural event was actually a business negotiation, just conducted in the language of poetry.
And if you needed any more proof about how transactional this all was, the night ends with a fight. Why? Because one merchant, whose tax hearing is literally the next morning, is furious that he didn't get to read the poem he'd paid 10 rupees for. For him, that poem wasn't art. It was a direct investment in his case, and he was being denied his chance to pay the officer.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, this satire shows us that flattery isn't just about feelings, it's economic. It reveals this whole hidden economy of praise, complete with buyers, sellers, and a very clear exchange rate.
And you know, this isn't just some old story about a dusty town. It really forces us to ask a tough question. Where do we see this exact same economy of flattery playing out in our own world right now?
Because it's everywhere, isn't it? The packaging might have changed, but the transaction is identical. Think about someone showering their boss with praise right before a performance review. Or what about huge corporate donations to political campaigns? They're not just being generous. We see it in those over-the-top positive comments on a powerful person's social media. And you know what? The entire influencer marketing world runs on this exact principle. Praise for payment. It's all the same deal.
And that kind of leaves us with this final thought. When praise stops being a genuine expression and becomes a currency, a tool you use to buy influence or favor or a tax break, what does that do to its real value? This story suggests that once honor is for sale, well, it might not be worth anything at all.